Senator Vance of Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks to the witnesses here. I'm going to pose this first question to all three of you, but maybe give you some background on where I'm coming from. So, I'm probably one of the few members of the committee that actually owns cryptocurrency. I've been fascinated by it for a long time, but I also, recognize that there are downsides to it, that there are risks that come along with it. And my basic bias here is that we don't really know what it is yet, meaning not just cryptocurrency, but a lot of the other underlying and related Web3 technologies, and that our regulatory approach should basically be to protect consumers while ensuring that we don't destroy the dynamic upside of this. And here's what I mean by the dynamic upside. Is it Reiners? What you just said is fascinating to me, and that I can tell you're sort of skeptical of the role that crypto is playing in society right now. And look, after what happened with Sam Bankman-Fried, there's a lot of cause for skepticism. What I wonder is how people would have described the internet in the 1970s, the 1980s, before it was commercially available, before it was a major part of the way that we did commerce. And that if we had taken an overbearing approach then, we might have destroyed a lot of the upside that have come over the last 3 decades. So I'm going to put this question to each of you, maybe just going from left to right. How do you think about that, about regulating crypto, not just in a way that protects consumers and also protects the upsides of the technology right now in February of 2023, but ensures that the innovation that's going to happen on this platform, which is really how I think of it, actually happens in a way that's relatively free, relatively fair, and preserves, as Senator Menendez said, the fact that this could become a tool in America's foreign policy and economic arsenal?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Senator. So I'll respond by saying that crypto is not new. The first Bitcoin transaction was in 2009. So we have a 14-year track record to look back and assess this. And it didn't take the internet 14 years to prove its worth. And so when you look at cryptocurrencies, I would just ask, what's the fundamental value? Why are they worth anything? Normal financial assets are someone else's liability, right? There's an issuer. Otherwise, where would the returns come from? So there's no reason to think that cryptocurrency is going to generate returns indefinitely into the future. It's clear that people are just buying it because they think they can sell it to someone else at a higher price in the future. There's no fundamentals. Now, that doesn't mean necessarily that blockchain doesn't have value, and I think there's a way to regulate the risk associated with crypto and to the consumer protections point that you raise, while still allowing traditional financial services to experiment with blockchain as they are. And I think our existing financial regulatory framework is more than capable of keeping up with the traditional financial system using blockchain. But unbacked crypto assets, there's no there, and we have plenty of history to prove it.
Professor Jing.
Thank you, Senator. I like very much your analogy to the internet. I was just speaking with a colleague of mine at Wharton who had began his legal career at the FCC, and he told me at that time, and I'm dating his age very clearly, but he said one of the big fights at the FCC was whether to license internet charters. I don't even know what that means, the question was, should internet providers have to register with the FCC? Should page providers, site providers, et cetera? And if they had decided yes, I think the internet would be very different today, and we may not even have blockchain technologies. So why am I bringing this up? It's extremely important that we have open, interoperable standards. And that is the spirit of blockchain technology. The idea is that these technologies produce stacks that are composable, almost like Legos. And so with the iPhone, you can then build apps on top, GPS locators, and then be able to use Uber on top of that, and then maybe your finances. Why we need to think in terms of pushing for open, interoperable standards is to prevent monopolies of the future. So digital identity is going to be the cornerstone of the digital economy. And right now, there are some companies, and I'm not going to name them right now, but they are digitizing our driver's licenses in closed wallet solutions. And that means these companies, and you can probably guess who they are going to have an advantage over who are using their wallets whenever they are trying to transact and are required to share their personal data, including their driver's license. And so down the road, you'll end up with digital transactions that are viewable only by these companies, and other companies are not allowed to actually build on top of the digital identity. So we have to actually set the guardrails in the right balance to allow for innovation, but not have companies or bad players take advantage of that openness.
Great. Mr. Yadav.
Thank you so much, Senator, for that question. We've had innovation for as long as we can remember in this economy. So, for example, from the ATM to all the financial engineering that we saw pre-crisis, we've had a ton of innovation that is, constantly and consistently a part of the American financial system. The way in which we've tackled it is by having a dialogue amongst regulators to approach this in a smart way that includes, obviously, contributions from the industry. Now, certainly, as Professor Reiners mentioned, Bitcoin has been there for 14 years. But what we have seen in the crypto economy, for example, is a real uptick in activity, particularly in the last 3 years. So, for example, DeFi transactions have increased almost 900% in 2021. We've seen extraordinary transaction volumes on crypto exchanges, almost 689% gains from 2020 to 2021. So we've seen more people coming into this economy to sort of try out new products and so forth. Now, that has obviously created risks, and it means that we need to understand them. It means that we need to use the tried and tested rules, the tools that we had to understand and regulate innovation, to think about innovation, and to encourage innovation through, for example, tools like disclosure, as was discussed earlier, in addition to making sure that the entities that are engaging in innovation are doing so safely, for example, keeping minimum capital buffers, for example, making sure that those people who are providing products and taking money from other people are doing so in a way that has proper internal controls. These are things that we have used before, we've tried before, there's encouraged innovation before. I think the need for this now is urgent, given the expansion and sophistication of the crypto framework, and I think we can continue to balance the need for market integrity and consumer protection, as well as making sure that we can do innovation, but provided we can get regulators on board, as well as have industry contribute to that dialogue in a systematic way.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Senator Vance.